My name is William Stanley. This is IT 6873 presentation. My topic was A10 unvalidated redirects and forwards. What is an unvalid redirect? The definition from OWASP was in linking to a destination without proper validation that leads to unauthorized pages. Google referred to it as unvalid redirects as simply spam and malware. Microsoft referred to it as any web application that redirects to a URL that is specified via the request, such as a queue string or from data can potentially be tampered with to redirect users to external malicious URL. So in summary, an invalid redirect is a redirect that is linked on a trusted site that will take the user to an unauthorized site to expose a vulnerability by either installing malicious software or by gaining secure information from the user. So why do we use redirects? Well, similar domain names to redirect for misspellings. Move pages, for example, if you want to merge a site, move the new domain. Or a name change. Logging out outgoing links, a technique that was used and made popular by Amazon back in several years ago, where you could sell ads on your site that would link you to Amazon for a commission if you didn't, to generate business for smaller companies. It's also used as shortening the original link. Some sites with hundreds of pages and even thousands of pages, such as Amazon, may use them to shorten up their links rather than having 100 plus characters in a URL. It's also used on a lot of older sites where they've been upgraded, where you're trying to replace the information, but you don't want to get rid of the older information as well. It's kind of like going through revisions of a website, for simpler terms. Okay, it's also done in manipulating. There's two ways of doing that. One way is to make sure the search engine the visitor reaches the correct site, which is a good thing. The bad thing is it's also done to make sure search engine visitors reach the wrong site. It's also considered phishing in some terms, where you get one link and it takes you somewhere else. Here's an example of a valid redirect. Taking a snapshot of Google's home screen. If you click the sign in link, you can see here in the black tab text box, click the following link and you can see it shows the URL. If you look at the second half of the URL, you actually see google.com again showing up in the URL. Now, here's an example of invalid redirect. Someone goes to the extent of creating the exact same home page that Google would have, except that this time when you click the sign in, for example, where I've highlighted the yellow text box, if you look, it doesn't have the google.com address. It's got mysite.com for login. And let's back up real quick and you take a look at the two. There again, it's kind of where it brings you into the sign in for Google. Here it brings you to the sign in for mysite.com login. That's a good example of a URL invalid redirect. Here's another example. It also comes up in a lot of emails. So and I actually took this one exactly from my email yesterday. If you look at this email, it's asking you if dear customer, you've not paid for driving on a toll road. This invoice is sent repeatedly. Please service your debt in the shortest possible time. Well, EasyPass is actually a good toll roads company. I've actually used it in Texas. But if you look at the link and you hover your mouse over it, you can see in the text box I've brought it up. And I actually shortened it up a little bit here, but it actually takes you to a website called killgerms.com, which has absolutely nothing to do with EasyPass and their invoicing system. This actually takes you to a website talking about killing germs using the use of sterilized water. A great example of a URL redirect. You try to get the visitor to be looking at one thing while they're actually clicking on another. Okay, what is the risk associated with unvalid redirects? Well, the typical reasons unvalid redirects are used is direct a user to a site to obtain username and password to sites, for example, eBay, PayPal, and Amazon. They seem to get hit one of the largest ones of all. It's used to access information to obtain products and goods with the information provided by the end user. And with eBay and PayPal and Amazon, Once you get their username and password, you can get in. They do a good job of storing your information, which is not a great thing for the user. So it allows the bad guys to come in and purchase items and goods and have it shipped to an alternate address. It's also used to direct end users to a site that sells service. For example, most users typically don't go on the internet searching for adult content. It can be on a perfectly good site. It can be hacked. Next thing you know, you're looking at adult content trying to sell you a service. Also, prescription companies in other countries, Canada and Europe, was real big about this a couple years ago, where you'd be looking at one ad, you click on it inside there, and you'd wind up in a pharmaceutical company. You could buy your prescriptions there without even using a prescription, where they could send them over to the United States, which of course is illegal here, but for those guys it's perfectly acceptable. And it's also been done as a trick for some smaller businesses that's competing with bigger businesses, where they try to get in, they try to get an ad on it. You might think you're going to Best Buy or Amazon. You click on the link, it may take you to the same company that actually sells that product, but it's a different company completely, and it's what it is. They're trying to gain the business and resources, which is also it's really not good for those guys. It doesn't give you a valid trust that you've restricted and going to the wrong website. So unvalidated redirects are used to steal information. Typically, when you click on one, their biggest goal is to gain secure information from you. Username and password is usually the main priority of them. But they also can go in and grab your cookies to browse, get your browsing habits, any other information stored in that cookie, whether it be passwords and emails and to emails and things of that nature. Anything they can get their hands on. This is why they want to do that. One of the biggest things, the biggest downside of it is a lot of malware and spamware come from it. They get you to click on it, go to their website. It may look identical, but it may have something downloadable, such as a PDF where you can read it. You click on it, next thing you know, you've got a toolbar installed, or you've got pop-up ads coming up. They're trying to get that malicious software on your computer, which may be driving you to websites that sponsored the malware, or it may be just something being just pure malicious. I mean, there's no rhyme or rhythm to it, but there's always an intent to gather information from you. Misdirection, invalid redirects, is typically users, you find it in your email. It's called phishing. You can get emails from trusted but disguised example would be from Internal Revenue Service. We've probably all seen this one, where you think you've got an email from the Internal Revenue Service. You go down to look on it. They try to get the panic mode going, where you opened up an email, you think you get really excited, you've got a refund that you didn't realize you had, or you've got a bill you didn't realize you thought you had. So they try to get you, your emotions involved into the email and not looking. Next thing you know, you're clicking on this link to take you. You think you're going to IRS. You go somewhere else to a third-party site. And then the next thing you know, depending on what information they ask, they can even have your social security number, your credit card, anything that you're willing to give them. So and that's what they're relying on, is that you'll be looking at one thing and doing another. One of the biggest risks to business with unvalidated redirects is it becomes very costly. Number one, you lose your customer's trust. Once you lose a customer's trust, they're not going to do business with you any longer. If the customer wishes to wind up losing personal information, then it can also become costly to the business as well, because they could be responsible for the breach of data and things of that nature. Or you can actually, if depending on the user, now the bad guys have access into your business, because they've got a username, they've got a password. It could be from one of your employees, it could be from a customer, but now they're able to get into your website as well. So, into your accounting information. So the last thing you want to do is start having unvalidated redirects on a business online. Ways to detect unvalidated redirects. Well, it's fairly easy, which is a good thing. The easiest way to detect unvalidated redirects is to hover over the link with a mouse. And a lot of people never do that, but if you take the time just to slide the mouse over top of it, it'll actually give you the link where you're fixed to go. And if the link is not there, it doesn't look credible, I would advise you not to go, or copy the link location and paste it back into Google. I've done that several times to make sure a site was valid or invalid. Actually, there are great ways to get around that. Other ways to detect invalid links. Google's got a good option right now for website administrators. It's called Site Search. I've personally used it before. Site administrators simply type their web address in the Google search engine and go through the pages to see all the links. And basically, now for large websites that can be time consuming, but it comes out to be a lot better than having invalid redirects. You get to go through your pages, and a good example would be if you put your site in there and say, for example, like I used, if you put John Doe's hardware store, and the next thing you know, you're going through like 2 or 4 pages, everything looks good. All of a sudden, on page 4, you notice your site is linked to Viagra. Now, naturally, a hardware store is not going to be selling Viagra. So at that point in time, you can follow the links backwards and see exactly where your site was hacked and what information you need to do on your side to change that code to make sure it doesn't happen again. And Google even offers Google Alert now to automate the search to make, they even expedite this a little bit easier for you. Again, another good thing is the problem has been around for such time now that a lot of the days, most of the days, and even older applications used to create websites can check for valid redirects. Even back when Microsoft's front page was up and going, it had an option where you could go in and validate all the links on your website. It came up with a nice table format. It took a few minutes to run, but you could actually see all the ingoing and outgoing links to your website and actually see where they landed on the other end. Took usually, I think a website I used at that time probably had 100, 120 pages on it. Probably took about 15, 20 minutes to run, but it also gave you the option to find the broken links. And the broken links is a lot of times where if your site has issues, that's where people come in and get the option to find that broken link and they change it, which is a big deal in the long run. And also Firefox has got a lot better at handling how it works as well. Firefox will actually, many of you probably seen this screen, the connection is untrusted. What happens is Firefox is when you click a link, it's running ahead, verifying either certificate or some credibility to the website. If it comes back and say, for example, you're searching for a new car and Firefox comes back and it looks and it finds out on that website that there's no certificate, there's no keywords or no metadata that matches up with the information you've just searched, then Firefox will come back and say this connection is untrusted. It means that either none of the information that you provided back to the browser was either showing up, or Firefox has already been tagged as this been an untrusted connection. And they do a really good job about monitoring this. If a website is tagged to be unreliable, then it goes into a database at Firefox, and Mozilla keeps up with that, and they try to make sure that their browser is all. That's the reason you have all the upgrades with it and the patches, is because they want to keep the latest and greatest ones out there to make sure that their software is not getting you to sites with invalid redirects, sites with viruses and other things on them as well, any malicious code. They do a great job of keeping up with that nowadays. So how do you prevent invalid redirects? Well, it's very simple if you're on a website. You simply avoid using redirects in your website. You want to be sure to put the exact location you want your user to go. You don't want to use any types of calculations. But if you have to use a calculation, please use it on a server-side application. And the reason you want to do that is you want your server to be the one doing the translation. You don't want to rely on anybody else to do that for you, because you can only control what's on your end. You cannot control what's on the user's end. The user's end computer can be corrupt. It could already have malicious software on it. And then the first chance that software gets to see that you're getting a redirect, it'll grab that data, change it to the different locations, and the next thing you know, you have no control over where your end users going. So in summary, while it's very easy to create an invalid redirect, it's also very simple to find. Most invalid redirects use the magician's trick. While the eyes are watching one hand, the other is doing something else. It's also easy to create for coding for invalid redirects. You simply change the coding. You change it to a direct link to where you want your customer to go or the end user, or you make sure you have it on the server side. The most effective items for a web administrator can do to prevent unvalid redirects is to use good coding practices. I mean, this is taught for over years after years after years. You want to be sure you use good coding practices consistently. And also, you need to audit the site periodically. You simply either go to Google or use a software you use to create your website. You want to verify that all your links are where they're supposed to be. You can verify that all your outgoing links are going to the locations they're supposed to be going to. And Google Analytics actually helps you do this as well. Most effective items a user can do to prevent invalid redirects is use internet security software. A lot of today's new software will actually, do the same thing Firefox does. They'll keep a nice database going. They'll verify these. When you start to click one, they'll scan ahead and flag you and let you know that, hey, where you're going is not where you was intended to go. And keep your browser up to date, like we just talked about. Firefox does a really good job at doing this. Internet Explorer is getting a lot better at doing this. There's a reason that these guys put security patches in place is to keep you out from places you don't belong. And always pay attention to your URL. Look before the click. Always look at everything before you click it, especially in emails. Emails are the biggest offenders of this of all, where you see a nice little image or trying to get you to somewhere to give information out, but you always want to make sure that goes where you're supposed to. And here's all the references you guys can go down if you'd like to take a look at some of them. Each one of them is from different locations. This one here, especially on Module 10, Invalid Redirects, is a small video. It covers everything really good. The last one here is it's for reference only, but if you're one of the guys who would like to play around and learn how to do an unvalidated redirect, it also, unfortunately, they're so good at showing you how it works, they're also good enough to show you how to create one. This is my presentation for A10 Unvalidated Redirects. Thank you.